Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, the youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry. Whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God has you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Balhamus. I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend,
Kyle Gray. Josh, I love that I get to be your good friend.
And in-person good friend.
And in person.
Yeah. Last week we were, was it last week?
It was last week.
It was last week.
We're remote.
Yeah.
And you know what? With traveling schedules and stuff, that might happen a couple more times.
And that's okay. How did the meetings go that you were up there?
It was really good. So we had an opportunity to talk about our camp themes. I know some of you out there, you've been like, hey, what's the Pursuit Camp theme? Pursuit Camp is our winter camp.
And you're happy to announce it right now.
Yes, the winter camp theme is... Yeah.
I wish I don't. I know I have them somewhere.
That's okay. You can actually add that in over top of.
I really could. Yeah.
But so we came up with our winter camp theme and we came up with our summer camp theme.
Yep. They'll get announced in the future.
They will get announced. Primarily, our summer camp theme gets announced every year at Reverb. We should talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, so we did that, and also it was just a good opportunity for us to kind of all get on the same page. You would think. And I'm sure this never happens at any of your churches, but you would think working on the same ministry team in different locations does not cause mission drift to happen where you're like, hey, we're all still doing the same thing, right? We're all still, no, seriously, like we're all, no, but it's good. It's good to check in. If nothing else, man, I love being a part of that team.
Yeah.
And watching those guys and hearing about how their ministries are growing and how God's developing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you don't know, we have multiple camps around the U.S. and around the world. In New York, there are 4 different camps that run. Right. Yeah, we're at 4 still.
Yep.
And then we have 2 camps that run down here as well.
Yeah.
Winter. Oh no, so there's like technically 5 camps in New York because
technically
you have winter,
there's 5
snow camp as well.
You have snow camp, then you have the Pines, which is the family camp. You have the Island for high schoolers. You have the Ridge for middle schoolers and the Ranch for the young. So that is one thing that New York has on us. Of you could literally bring your entire church or your entire family, drop them off, go to your respective corners.
Well, a lot of them do. They drop them off at the Island and they'll go to the Pines with like some of the younger kids maybe, or vice versa.
After they go through the Bible Institute.
After they go through the Bible
because
Institute.
You have to check in there.
Yeah, check out the Bible Institute.
Yeah.
There's honestly, sometimes there's a kid doing a practicum with us this year from another college, and I was kind of giving him a lowdown on like the organization as a whole, and he goes, yeah, I looked up on the website and was like kind of looking at it a little bit, and I'm explaining everything that Word of Life is a part of and does, and like what our youth ministry kind of reaches into, and then around the world as well. Like everything you see here, we do around the world.
Right. Sometimes better.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Sometimes better. And, but he looked at it. He's like, I didn't see this part of the website. Oh my word. I didn't realize you guys did this. And he's like, kind of became not overwhelmed, but he's like, he didn't realize the scope and the breadth. And sometimes I forget that like we are in a lot of different areas of ministry at Word of Life.
Did he have that Matrix moment where he just kind of glitched for a little bit?
Yeah.
And was like,
I offered him a red pill or a blue pill. And,
I know Kung Fu.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
But he said, I know Word of Life.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. Channeled it.
That's amazing.
Do it immediately.
That's amazing. No, so yeah, it was a great trip. Then at the end of that trip, I literally got home and drove out the next day and
it's like Jacksonville,
just did a D now. It's more St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra.
Okay.
Did a D now, and man, that was awesome working with that church. I love being able to show up at an event, speak, but really get to know the leadership team, get to know the students.
Yeah.
It actually surprises me the amount of times that I will go speak someplace and they're like, okay, we can take you back to your hotel room or you can go. And I'm like, well, can I just hang out with the kid? You want to like be around for the game time? I'm like, well, I'm here to impact them and interact with them.
Yeah.
I don't need to if you don't want to. They're like, no, just most of our speakers are like, okay, great. I did my thing. Let me go.
Yeah, because you're hired. They hire someone to come in, they speak, and they're like, okay, this is the job I did, and you leave.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm more than just a pretty face.
Yeah. Well, you're a camp director.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's important because when you're looking for leaders and you're looking for people to like work with, you want people that have certain attributes, and wanting to disciple, wanting to work with people is definitely one of those attributes.
Yep.
Which is what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Which is a
We're
great
gonna talk
segue.
about Josh. Out of all the segues that you've done, you have that's
the best.
That's the best.
See, every segue we do, we ruin it by saying that's the segue.
Yeah.
Which that's our shtick now.
That is.
Yeah.
That is our shtick. I think we should stick to that shtick.
I like it.
Thank you. Hey, so I was asked a question some time ago. Now that I've been involved in the youth pastor realm as the actual guy, and now that you've been involved in the youth leader realm as an we're not just interacting with those people. We are one of those people.
Yeah, we're in the trenches.
Somebody asked me, they said, hey, if you were the guy in charge and you could build the model leader or the model student. So, of course, because I'm not over analytical at all, I just went into my answer. No, I said, well, what are your clarifications? You know, are we talking about building the model student? Because the model student that shows up in 6th grade and comes all the way through is going to be different than the model student that shows up in 12th grade or 10th grade and finishes their time out. Second of all, the model student that shows up or the student that shows up whose parents are at the church or whose parents are at the church and involved or whose parents don't show up at all. Those are 3 totally different situations.
Yeah.
Well, now let's talk about the leader. Yeah. Are you talking about the leader that showed up as the parent? You know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But parents that are like, all right, now that my kids are in youth group, I want to be a youth leader.
Yeah.
That's slightly different than the college age kid that just says, I know I graduated last year or 2 years ago. I don't know why they're talking like this, but they are.
All of a sudden they're just some West Coast like surfer.
Yeah, man. But that's different. Then the person, you know, the young married couple or the couple that's like, hey, we just, you know, I mean,
the young single guy who's like, he's in early 30s.
Exactly.
Kind of there is a large, like,
absolutely.
There's a large pool of people that are in a church who are willing and want to be a part of youth ministry.
Right. It's like cake. Cake's got layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that analogy working somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Or parfaits.
There you
ever
go.
meet somebody and say, hey, you want a parfait? No, I don't like parfaits. No, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Onions on the other side?
This is starting to sound more like an episode of Seinfeld than Stacking Chairs.
Well, do you think? That was a horrible Seinfeld impersonation.
That's all right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So anyways, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I wrote down 4 things. Now, let me be absolutely clear.
Yeah.
We are not saying today that if you do not look like these 4 things, you are not a model leader.
Yeah.
We're not saying that these are the only 4 things.
Yeah.
Because Josh, let's be honest, every church is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, the people that you're going to attract, the area that you're in, the culture that you cultivate, even the culture that you're in as a country or as an area of the U.S. maybe, like everybody is going to have something different. And I think there might be people who are listening today and they're going to be kind of averse to this whole idea of like the model. There's no such thing as a model youth leader. There's no such thing as a model student. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But the point is if we're looking and saying, okay, these are the goals of what we want our youth leaders to look like because we feel like this would most exemplify Christ. I mean, Paul said, follow me like I follow Christ.
Right.
That means that there's a model for people to follow, right?
Right.
Therefore, we're trying to build that model, not because we think that person is going to be a grab bag just straight out of the church.
Absolutely.
Because this is what you as a leader or you as a follower should either be striving to bring people to or striving to be toward.
Absolutely. Well, and you also then have to take into consideration where that person is in their life, where that person is in their family, understanding that anything could happen at the drop of a hat or the moment that rearranges that. Your pastor, you know, you may be sitting there. I know this is never a frustration to any youth pastors that are out there that want to lead one way and their pastor is asking them to lead another way.
Oh, yeah.
But all of that are factors that go into this criteria.
Yeah. Criteria.
I don't think it's actually criteria.
Criteria.
Well, yeah, but even that. So here's what I would say. I'm basing this off of for this definition. I would say a leader that joins you and in I'm going to say 4 years.
In 4 years.
Over the course of 4 years.
Oh, gotcha.
I would say if I could say, man, I want to do whatever I can to help this person. Hopefully this person is walking in with a lot of these qualities.
Yeah.
But in case they're not, I mean, let's pause for a second, Josh. First of all, do you have a set of guidelines or expectations when somebody comes and says, hey, I want to be a youth leader? Or is it just, oh, you want to be involved? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, all you got to do is pass a background check and come on. I don't think it should be that way. I don't know how.
Well, I guess, do you have the luxury? I mean, every church has the luxury of being that choosy, if you will. So what do you do in the situation where, practically speaking, you say, okay, here's the criteria I want for my incoming leader.
Right.
You might only have the option of, hey, only this person, this person, and this person have volunteered. I need all three of them.
Exactly.
Or I need at least two of them.
Exactly.
Like, and the answer is just as simple as like, okay, have they passed the background check? And do they have a desire to follow Christ and like at least be like someone who like loves Christ and like leads others toward him? Absolutely. And those might be the only two criteria you can fill.
So, but that's what I'm saying. But you still should have some type of expectation.
Yeah.
Or ask at the starting point.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that's okay.
I think one of the other things that maybe is overlooked fairly often is maybe where that person stands theologically. Because, I mean, even within a church, there's a diversity of theological standpoints and things like that. Typically, if a person's a member, they are agreeing with, you know, your church's covenant or your church's like theological stances or whatever.
Absolutely.
But I think you need to at least make sure the core doctrine, just ask again. Even though your membership class did, say, okay, what is your belief in how a person comes to Christ?
Right.
What is your belief in, and pick the few core that you're like, okay, these are things we want to be on the same page for.
And that's where, again, it's kind of one of that aspect of, hey, what are you hoping to get out of this?
Yeah.
Why are you wanting to be a leader?
Yeah.
Again, let's go back to, you have some parents in your ministries, and let's just talk about the situation. I know that for some youth pastors in some situations is like the only reason why you're here is because your kid is here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, praise God that parent wants to be involved in and with their kid. But to figure out, okay, why are you here? What are you hoping to get out of it? What's your but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is whatever case I bring these leaders in, let's fast forward it 4 years from now. I believe that it is your job as the youth minister, as the youth pastor, as the youth director, as the whatever, as the lead guy. My church that I grew up in, we had a person by youth pastor name, but I don't think that it wasn't their full-time job. I know it wasn't their full-time job because they had to have an outside job. Yeah. But I'm saying, hey, that person understands, hey, fast forward the clock. These are my leaders. Let's say this person sticks around and is actively involved. Yeah. Not just like I'm here, but you say, listen, I want to help this person grow. What should they look like, or what could they look like, probably is a better term. Yeah. What could they look like in 4 years? That's what I wrote these 4 words down. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So let's unpack them a little bit.
Let's unpack them. Yeah. So the first thing I would look for in a leader is I want somebody who's teachable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of like the starting point for pretty much any job.
It should go without saying that the person is teachable.
Yeah.
However, when I say teachable, here's what I'm defining this as. Josh, I would want to know that you're bringing something to the table, but that you're willing to listen at the table. Yeah. I don't want just somebody that's just like, hey, Pastor Kyle, I'm here. Tell me exactly what to do. No. I want some free thinkers. Yeah. Because I want some, I don't have to always be the idea guy. I don't want to always be the idea guy. But at the same time, there has to be a time where I get to say, hey, this is the direction that we're going. Yeah. This is what we're developing. But the kind of final thing with teachable is I want to make sure that you're here to grow too. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. Do you guys, what's the conversation around your group amongst the leaders with the lessons? Like, do you guys ever talk about what you're getting out of it? Do you do that in small group?
Typically, we typically, that's what our small group typically is.
And now it's time for
small group. Yeah. Not right now, actually, guys. Just wait. It'll be coming. Yeah. But no, we talk about it in our small group. We usually have, we get a text message the day of saying what all of the small group questions are. Oh, nice. And then we're usually talking about that because we'll typically sometimes there's a week where we won't do a pre-youth group meeting, but typically we come together and we pray. And then we kind of talk about like, okay, here's the plan to split up a small group. Here's what we're talking about. And like do a little like huddle almost ahead of time. But I don't know if we've ever like sat down afterward and like kind of talked about the lesson aside from that though.
Well, and I don't think I've ever seen a group do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes our focus is so much on these students that we can neglect the leaders that are there.
Yeah. I will say though,
Go ahead.
naturally,
Naturally.
after a meeting, like after youth group's over and I'm helping clean up and stuff like that, and we'll usually talk about if there's something that like really stood out, we'll talk about, okay, hey, this kid was doing this. Like we gotta maybe talk to him about how he was acting. Hey, this went really well. I felt like this went kind of poorly. Like we'll just kind of like debrief kind of as we're cleaning up for the night. And the kids, there's a couple kids playing ping pong over in the corner.
Right.
But on, I would say probably like every other message, I'll say like, hey Matt, like this thing, like
this is what stuck out.
This really stuck out to me. I'm like,
well,
man,
see,
it's like
and I love that. And there's probably not a real easy set aside time because again, you're dealing with parents that either have to get home with the kids that they brought to youth group or for their kids, or wives and husbands and wives that are going back to their families.
Yeah.
But I would say, hey, you in youth leadership, be intentional about that. Be involved in that. Ask the question. I told you about the one youth group that I worked at that prior to the whole thing kicking off, all the leaders would get together and they would share, hey, here's where I am in quiet time. Here's the verses I memorized. Again, there was one situation, one time that I walked into with that, and it was there was a lot of positives to it, but I thought, man, to start that cold turkey probably had to be pretty daunting.
Yeah.
But again, I would want to have somebody that is teachable, that is growing in their personal walk with Christ. Again, somebody who's bringing ideas to the table, but somebody who's willing to be on this team.
Yeah.
And we can unpackage that a whole lot further. I would encourage you guys as a leadership team to talk about what does teachable mean to you?
Yeah.
What youth pastors, youth leaders, are you getting stuff out of the messages? It's the same reason why I tell my team all the time, every life reach and change for eternity. And that has to start with you, because if the word of God is not affecting us and impacting us, can we really expect it to affect and impact other people? Second of all, I would want, and these are not in like number one, number two, but the second thing I wrote down was willing.
Yeah.
I would want somebody who's willing. I would want somebody who is willing to be a leader, who's willing to be involved, somebody who, when the normal tasks are handed out or talked about, they're willing to do the things that are there. Yeah. Not in a begrudging, okay, fine. Yeah. I'm willing to do that. But no, I'm somewhat eager to do that. I'm looking for ways. This is my ministry.
Yeah.
This is not just, I was going to say Josh, but this is not just Matt's ministry.
Yeah.
You as a youth leader, Josh, are a part of that group. And if you're not willing to serve in the regular, everyday, normal tasks, as well as the hard tasks that come up, are you really there?
Yeah.
Are you really a part of what's going on? If we're only expecting the bat boy to deal with all the bats, that's his job.
Yeah.
That makes youth group, I think a job. And now, can you do everything all the time?
Yeah.
No, you can.
Oh, can you do everything?
Can you do everything all the time?
I thought you meant like, can you extend beyond and just like, hey, I'm just gonna do this myself and like do that. I thought you meant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for instance, stacking chairs. Who's gonna stack the chairs, Josh?
I mean, I guess I make the youth kids do it.
It's a game.
I have done that before.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, but I think as I'm walking through that idea of I want people that are willing.
Yeah.
They're a part of it.
Yeah.
They're involved in what's happening.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a little more methodical than,
No, but I think, I was going to say with the willingness part, something that's interesting is there's going to be, like, even with the teachability, this person over here, 35 years old, married, has kids, he might be less teachable than the 20-year-old who's straight out of high school.
Right.
Because this kid's willing to learn. This guy I already
know everything.
Exactly. He might think that.
Right.
He might not. But then it might be swapped for the willingness to do things. The 35-year-old has a house, has kids, knows how to take care of his finances. He's going out and he's like, I get things done.
Right.
I'm willing. Hey, what do you got for me?
Right.
I'm going to go and do stuff until you ask me to do something else. Like, that's how I was raised. Like, my dad was always that way. He was always doing something. But the 20-year-old might be like, I don't really want to like,
Right.
I'm just kind of here to hang out with the guys and stuff.
Right.
So I think what I'm trying to remember right now is that this is over the course of 4 years. This is your plan from year 1 to year 4. And that person, let's preface by saying that person may have been already serving in your youth group for 4 years. And you're saying, okay, I'm building a new plan.
Exactly.
The place out of these 4 things that we're talking about, maybe they're lacking in teachability.
Yeah.
How do I work with them? Which is ironic because you're going to have to teach them how to be teachable.
Which is kind of strange.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But knowing what that goal is, same thing with my daughter. Like I know what I want. Like right now, the thing I want out of her is obedience.
Yeah.
Teaching her how to be obedient.
Absolutely.
And working with her on that. And it is funny. She got punished last night or disciplined or whatever the correct term is. So you'll have to excuse me. She got disciplined last night and like she went and like told my wife on me. she's like, Daddy disciplined me. Daddy punished me. Like, and like went and told my wife about it. And I was like, yeah, because you were disobeying, sweetheart.
Yeah.
And like we talked about this.
I love how sometimes our kids think, let me go to the other one.
Yeah.
And now daddy's going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, but, and I would say that. So on the area of teachability, again, have that conversation. What does that look like? Maybe you haven't thought, I want my leaders to memorize scripture. I will say this. I don't think you should expect any of your students to do things that you don't ask your leaders to do. If you want your students to be doing a quiet time, I think your leaders ought to be doing quiet time. Personally, I think the best case scenario is your leaders and your students are doing the same quiet time.
Yeah.
So you're building a sense of unity and consistency.
Which is why we have the Word of Life quiet time.
We have the Word of Life
plug
quiet
aside.
time.
Like
Absolutely.
that is why we have it.
Absolutely. That's why the youth ministries curriculum, the quiet time for the students and the quiet time for the adults is the exact same. And then it makes it really, really easy. So we don't have to create a children's ministry leader and a youth group ministry leader.
All the way down to little
all
kids.
the same down. Ages 4 to 6 year olds all the way up to adults.
Yep.
With
4 to 6 to 46.
Hey, well, people can live out and do quiet time outside of 40.
Yeah, but it
400.
It doesn't rhyme and
doesn't.
like sound paralleled.
You're right.
So after 46, no more quiet time.
You're good. You don't have to be teachable
Yeah.
anymore. Well, but like willing may look different for you than other. You may say, hey, I'm asking leaders, again, over the course of 4 years, I'm asking leaders to be willing to have students in their home.
Yeah.
That college age kid probably isn't going to invite a ton of kids over to their apartment, or you might not want that college kid to invite a bunch of kids over to their apartment.
Yeah.
You may have
They might not be mature enough
stipulations. You may have, they may go, well, this is my parents' basement. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, that willingness is going to look different. I would encourage you guys, what are you hoping your people are willing to do? And I would say this, you probably already know it without thinking about it, because what is the stuff that frustrates you that your leaders aren't willing to do that you hope they're willing to do? Or what's the stuff that you're like, man, I am so blown away, like encouraged because my leaders are willing to do this. Well, there's nothing wrong with you extrapolating that out and looking at another leader and saying, hey, I don't know if you noticed this, but man, Josh, every Tuesday takes his boys out to McDonald's for fries. And I love that. Fries with Josh, or fries on Friday, whatever.
Fries with Josh rhymes better than fries on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 46, whatever. Number 3 that I wrote down, they're involved. Now, let me be very specific with this. Here's what I mean by involved. I would want everybody to be involved in a small group. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a small group leader.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But you're involved in a small group.
Let me say real quick, one thing I love that we do in our youth group is we have a senior this year, and he actually will lead. He's gone to 2 different small groups now and has led each small group at least once.
Dude, I love that.
And so we give him the questions, and like this past time he was in my small group, and I sat there and I like helped kind of lead the conversation, but like he's the one who like started the conversation pieces of the questions. I love that, involvement.
But again, it's now hopefully on the outside of that, you guys are, or Matt is, or somebody is pouring into that kid.
Yeah.
Because again, let's go back to the teachable thing. If you want leaders that are growing, you've got to help them grow.
Yeah.
I think you could argue to what degree is your responsibility working with a 28-year-old, 38-year-old? How do you, as a youth pastor, in fact, you know what? I'd love to get a youth pastor on here to talk specifically about how do you pour into leaders that are older and more spiritually mature than you are?
Yeah, that'd be tough.
But
all of ours are younger than that right now.
Absolutely. So it makes it a little easier in that situation. But you've got that kid. Well, listen, I want that kid to be involved. I want that leader to be involved.
Yeah.
But not just in small group. I would want, and again, we're talking about best case scenario, 4 years into this. I would want every single one of my leaders to understand, here is my role in youth group outside of the small group.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not running every game, but week to week, you may be, at the beginning of the month, I'm helping Matt think through, here's a couple games for October.
Yeah.
That's my involvement. That's what I bring to the table. Go back to that very first thing. Teachable, I bring stuff to the table. Well, what do you bring to the table? I help decorate the room. I help plan events. I help bake the snacks or organize the snacks. I mean, we could go on and on and on about all the different things, running the PowerPoint, working with the kids in the soundboard or running the soundboard. There's a myriad of different things, but let's be honest. We have a lot of youth leaders that just show up, and I'm going to step on a few toes here. If you are a leader that is just showing up, you're a fan, not a teammate.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that's where you are, and maybe you're just starting out, and that's your spot. Or maybe your youth pastor or youth leader, whoever you want to call him, hasn't given you a job.
Yeah.
Well, then I would say ask for one.
Yeah.
Get after it.
Well, and over the course of 4 years, you're building into something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say when I say involved, I would want them to be involved in the leadership meetings, in the planning meetings, which means me as the head guy or you as the head person are planning those meetings, are throwing those different directions out there as far as, hey guys, I'd really like you. And let's be honest, there are some youth pastors out there you can be like, well, I mean, if it's not going to ask too much of you, if it's not going to be, no, give your people vision.
Yeah.
Hey guys, here's my expectation.
Yeah.
Understanding that everybody's not going to have perfection, but you understand my expectation.
Yeah.
But I would say leadership meetings and events.
Yeah.
I have talked to more youth pastors and more guys that are like, dude, when I go to put an event together, everybody's busy and I'm constantly pulling everything off of my own. Again, you've got parents, you've got college kids, you've got all these different people in all these different areas of life.
Yeah.
That, well, I'm so sorry, my kid has this and this and this. At this past weekend, I was at a D-Now, and one guy said to me, I thought this was kind of interesting, said to me, hey, I've got a daughter. She didn't want to come, so I didn't make her come. But he was still there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was a little interesting, and we didn't get into it. But here's what I thought. He's still here.
Yeah.
He's still at this D-Now, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every bit of it. He was there all day Saturday. I was really impressed with the guy.
Yeah.
Now, you can have the conversation with him if you were his youth pastor of, man, I really wish your daughter was here.
Yeah.
But regardless, that guy, you could not argue if that guy was involved or not.
Yeah, but you also can't argue and say oh, you're not setting a good precedent for your daughter.
Exactly.
Hey, he's like, I'm putting my money behind my mouth.
Exactly.
I like
that. So I did like that. So, and then the last thing that I wrote down, this is kind of a next step over, and it may sound very similar to these last two, involved, and this last one, active.
Oh, that's the same thing as involved.
No, it's not, Josh. Whatever. Give me a chance.
Go ahead.
All of this obviously has to be in concert with your gift mix and abilities.
Sure.
Okay. If you are not an approved driver, and I go, it's a little ridiculous that you're not driving one of the church vans. Well, you're not allowed to.
Yeah. Might be a little out of touch.
So in accordance with your gift mix, in accordance with your abilities, in accordance with your with what you bring to the table. But I would want them to be teachable. I would want them to be willing. I would want them to be involved, and I would want them to be active. And here's what I specifically mean when I say active. Again, kind of like the involved, as you're not just there, but you're there helping these other people to be involved, willing, and teachable, helping these students to be involved, willing, and teachable. I don't need police.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've showed up to a youth group or even the youth group I work with or a youth event, and I've had a guy say, dude, can you help my leaders they just sit in the back. They don't really get involved. They don't talk to anybody. They're not active in my kids' lives, both on the night and outside of the night.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say, well, I could say, well, I'm involved. I'm here. Yeah. I'm involved. I'm doing the job. I'm checking the tasks.
Yeah.
Were the chairs set up? Yes. Were the chairs cleaned up? Yes. Then I did my job.
Yeah.
Did I run small group? Yes. But when I say active, I'm saying like, you know what? There's some feet to this thing outside of youth group. I'm taking the boys out for fries on Friday.
Yeah.
Or fries with Josh.
Yeah.
Whichever one. Ron
fries with Josh sounds better.
You just like fries, don't you?
I do.
Okay. But I'd want them interacting. I'd want them interacting in the leaders meeting. I would want them interacting with other leaders.
Yeah.
They may be helping me develop other leaders.
Yeah.
I was talking to a youth pastor the other day who had 500 kids in his youth group.
Sheesh.
500 kids in his youth group. You've got to lead.
Got at least 3 or 4 leaders.
Completely different, maybe 2.
Maybe at least 2.
Well, I mean, if you have your wife there, I mean.
Yeah. So, you're fine then.
But again, it's kind of that whole idea of hopefully your leaders are developing leaders.
Yeah, you know gotta be. Yeah, that's a whole operation.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's not your, mom and pop church out in the countryside. That's a lot of people.
Right. And so then hopefully those leaders are because there's no way you're going to be able to interact with every single one of those kids or every one of those students.
That's honestly, that's a little daunting. Imagine you have to have multiple leaders who are taking initiative, who are very active, who are then developing other leaders.
Okay, so now let's go to a place, and I did not dig into this situation, but let's go to a place of, if that church was like, no, we have one youth pastor, that's who we've hired.
Yeah, jeez.
You would have to build several layers of leadership. And I would say this, Josh, build for the ministry you want to have, not the ministry you currently have.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you may say, and I've been around enough youth groups that have had this problem. Well, you know what? It was me, it was my spouse, it was my 2 leaders, and we had 15 kids, and dude, we were rocking it. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then you got to 25 kids, 30 kids, and you're like, you know what? We can manage this. And then you got to 50 kids, and you're like, we can still do this. And then you got to 60 or 75 kids, and you're like, we figured out how to make it work. Well, here's the problem. When you do that, you will be convinced that what you're doing is the best thing you're doing because this is the way that we've always done it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, you know what? We just grew by 10 kids. We probably ought to add another student, or excuse me, another leader or 2.
Yeah.
Now, yes.
Pick your ratio.
You go, we have 10 kids in our youth group, and so we got 10 leaders. No, that's not what I'm saying. At the same time, if you got people that are willing to be involved and active, run for it.
Well, yeah, maybe you change the program up a little bit and make it more about, that seems like more like a home group then kind of approach.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Possibly.
But let me say this before we wrap up here.
Go ahead.
I think we should take that list and flip it on its head a little bit and say, okay, you as a youth pastor, that's what you want for your youth leaders. Mm-hmm. That's what you should want for yourself too. I heard a story the other day of a guy who wasn't involved in a youth group, but is an active member in their church. I think is on the like a deacon or in the board or whatever, however they have their structure.
The board of deacon elders committee.
The board of deacon elders committee. Yeah. And so he's on the board of deacon elders committee, and he says like, hey, youth pastor, here's something I think you should be doing. Here's how you can accomplish it. We actually this is how we develop leaders in the place that I work. Like, this is something I really know a lot about. Right. And youth pastor kind of goes, yeah, okay, cool. And just kind of blows it off. Right. Well, you just gave up the opportunity to grow into the 4 things that you are supposed to be having your leaders grow into as well. Right. So I think when you're going to be doing this for other people, you need to be finding a way to do it for yourself as well.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And so that's where, again, what breaks my heart is there are some there are some ministry leaders that are out there. Yeah. And some of them are pastors, and some of them are youth pastors, and some of them are children's pastors. Mm-hmm. Some of them are whatever. That you go, no, it's all, I do it all. Yeah. And you may have had to do it all out of necessity. You may have had to do it all because nobody's getting involved. Yeah. And so again, out of necessity. Yeah. But you may be still in that spot because you didn't allow people to be a part of what's happening. Yeah. You may not have leaders because they sat there when they were with you and they said, all you want me to do are guards to make sure that the kids don't leave so they can listen to you preach. Mm. You may say, no, I've got it all. No, I can do it. And again, maybe you're like, well, the last time I asked people, they weren't willing to do that.
Yeah.
So help your leaders get there.
Yeah.
This D Now that I was just at, I got a chance to talk to the pastor's wife, and I got a chance to talk to the pastor and the youth pastor's wife and the youth pastor. And they are kind of in a rebuilding mode right now. And they're saying, hey, we're being really specific about the leaders that we bring on as the influential leaders. And I thought that was interesting because they had a ton of leaders at this thing.
Yeah.
But I could tell it was like a, hey, no. If you want to be a part of what this thing is looking like, there's an expectation of involvement.
Yeah.
There's an expectation of what you're going to bring to the table. And so, sure, to one degree, almost anybody, as long as you pass the background test and we're willing to do this, you could show up and help out in an event.
Yeah.
But you weren't going to be a part of the steering committee. You weren't going to be a part of the Elden Deacon, what did we call them?
Elder Deacon Committee Board.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the last thing with that idea of active is I would want to have leaders that are sharing Christ. I would want to have leaders that are active in their personal growth on their own. In other words, they have their own quiet time. And you could go, well, that goes back to teachable. I think these things are all fairly interchangeable.
Yeah.
But you could have somebody that says, man, I'm teachable. I'm here to learn, but I'm not serving. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm here to learn. You could have somebody that's there and is active, but is not teachable.
Yeah.
You could have somebody that's like, hey, I'm here, I'm showing up, but that's not my job. That's somebody else's job.
Yeah.
I'm not willing. So again, as you kind of look at this thing, this is my list. This may not be your list, but do you have a list?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And do you know where you want to take your leaders? And I would say, Josh, the one thing that we haven't been real specific about in this episode, which I think is okay, is the specifics to the practicality. And the reason why I don't think we should go into specifics is because that's going to be absolutely different for every group.
Yeah, it's going to be a grab bag. It's going to be different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
And so I would, I go back to that planning meetings, but do you have those regular meetings with your leaders where they then see ways that they can get involved and how they can be involved? Yeah. I go back to that story that I've told before of the youth pastor that got up and talked for a long time. And then somebody said, yeah, okay, but what do you want me to do on that?
Yeah.
I think you have to get practical with your people in your situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd want leaders that are teachable, willing, involved, and active. And again, that's not, most times people aren't going to walk in with that heartbeat or with that setup.
Yeah.
But are you building them there?
Yeah, I love that. Well, now, so guys, keep in mind, we're actually going to be doing, this is a two-parter. We're going to be doing this one. It's not going to be labeled as a two-parter. This one's going to be talking about the ideal leadership and how to build it. Next, we're going to be talking about students in the next episode.
Yeah.
But before we move on to that, first we got to move into small group.
Small group is a time that we talk about. I just wanted to be involved.
Here's what happened. I forgot that you usually introduce small group.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No.
Don't you?
No.
Because I do the opening and then you do small group.
I just do this. Dad, no chairs.
No, but you do the small group.
Small group is a time that we talk about anything and everything that we want to talk about. But Josh, we thought about ways to get this thing a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
And so be paying attention, you stackers.
Yeah.
To hopefully some definitive direction shift.
Yeah, definitive direction shift. I think it would sound better if it was just called Fries with Josh.
Fries with Josh. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for Fries with Josh.
Fries with Josh is a time where we talk about the same thing we talk about in small group.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today for small group, we want to actually plug an event that we think you guys should be checking out.
Yes.
It's coming up, and it was always my favorite event.
Yeah.
When I was a student, as a BI student, and also I went to back when it was called Super Bowl. It's now called Reverb. We're gonna be talking about Reverb. I used to go to Super Bowl in Johnstown. We talked about this before. In Johnstown's PA when I was a kid, and it was like my favorite memory. Vuvuzelas at 6 a.m.
I'm pretty sure, Josh, there is a good chance I was at one of the events that you were at.
I don't doubt it at all because we went every year.
That's awesome.
When I was a kid.
That's awesome.
But guys, Reverb is, Kyle, tell us what Reverb is.
Reverb is an all-night student ministries evangelistic event.
Evangelistic event.
Designed to be an event for your students to invite their friends to, yes, have a fun time at some type of a minor league or professional sports
event, a bunch of like activities, bowling,
at
ice
the end,
skating.
at the end of that sporting event, they bring everybody together and somebody preaches the gospel. And what breaks my heart, Josh, are the times that youth groups will come and they will not invite unsaved students.
Yeah.
Yes, we want your students to have fun,
Absolutely.
but the whole heartbeat of this event is that students can come to know Jesus Christ as their Savior. And we tell students all the time, you are God's plan to reach your friends for Christ.
Yeah.
So have your students invite other students. Actually, Josh, there's a pretty cool scholarship thing to help unsaved students get there for little to zero cost.
Yeah. So make sure you're talking about that. You can find out more about the event at wol.is/reverb.
That's right.
And then also
link in the bio.
Yeah, links in the bio. And it's also on the screen here if you're watching on our Fellowship YouTube channel. But also, if you are connected with a Word of Life area missionary, we highly recommend you, or they're called coaches now.
Yeah, they're called something.
You can reach out to them as well. Talk to them about that scholarship. I think the information about the scholarship is on the website as well.
Yeah, and there are, we've done this in many different cities. We're hoping that there is a city close to you. If there's not a city close to you, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to
We
add
should
one.
come
Yeah.
to that city.
A specific reverb for you.
That's right, for you. Well, and I would say this again goes with our whole heartbeat of we want to help churches to accomplish what they value.
Yeah, we come
in
alongside.
ways that adds value to their ministry, but they don't have to do it themselves.
Yep.
You don't have to put this whole thing together. Be a part of it.
It's the whole reason we do it.
Typically, it's a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., which I know some people just went, oof.
Yeah.
But listen, the event is not for you. The event is for your students.
But I don't know if I want to. I don't
Josh.
want to be up all night.
Josh, how in the world are you going to plug something and then not be a part of it?
All right, I'll be there for Friday.
Fantastic. I love it.
All right, guys. So that isn't like we said. We're going to be doing some new stuff for small group. It's not going to be
Josh.
it's not going to just be plugs. We are going to do another plug for the next small group. So bear with us, but we do have some ideas for making small group a little bit more interesting.
Well, focused. I would say sometimes small group has kind of felt like this. Well, what are they going to talk about today? Which
we want you to stick around. We want you to stick around for it.
We do. Which also, and I did say to Josh, hey guys, we want to hear from you. If you've got questions that we should talk about in small group, if you've got episodes that we should talk about,
and we've gotten
want
a couple.
To know
this is one of them
from you.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah. No. This question absolutely came. This question and the next question came through.
Well, you can email us at stackingchairspod@wol.org. You can check us out on all of our social media, Stacking Chairs Pod, on our social channels. Come join the Facebook group. It's in our link tree, in our bio. You can come join the conversation. It is still growing. Let's be a part of that conversation. Let's get it rolling. Yep. But Kyle, any other thoughts before we end?
You need to absolutely make sure that you carefully and purposefully stack those chairs.